Ever imagine what it must have been like to live in America back in the time of the Founding Fathers? As John Dickerson explains, author A.J. Jacobs did a lot more than just imagine.
There, gorgeous.
For more than a year now, author A.J. Jacobs pulled on woolen leggings more often than he put on socks. A.J., tell me why you are wearing what you're wearing.
A couple of years ago, I realized I had never read the American Constitution. But every day, I'd open the news and there's another story about how this 230-year-old document is affecting our lives. And I said, I need to know more about our founding document. And the way I like to learn is I like to go all in.
All in means total immersion. For his best-selling book, The Know-It-All, Jacobs spent 18 months reading the entire Encyclopedia Britannica. For the year of living biblically, he tried to follow all the rules in the Old and New Testaments.
I do look deeply absurd, but I am also deeply serious about this project.
And now, his latest immersion, the year of living constitutionally.
Part of my goal is to get inside the minds of these founding fathers as much as I can.
Right. Accordingly, Jacobs joined the New Jersey 3rd Regiment of Revolutionary War reenactors.
I actually died. I did die for my country, but I died in the shade. And I put it all in.
Put the powder in.
These reenactors are very committed. Of course, we were not using lead balls. We were using blanks. This is the real deal from the 1700s. I got it online, which I assume is not how they did it back then.
To explore his Second Amendment rights, Jacobs also carried his antique firearm around New York City.
I was at a coffee shop in line with my musket, and the guy in front of me said, "You go ahead, I'm not messing with you."
We played along, speaking with A.J. Jacobs at the 1765 Morris Jumel Mansion in Manhattan, where General George Washington briefly made his military headquarters. What scared the creators of the Constitution?
They had just fought a war to get rid of the monarch. That's one of the most brilliant parts of the Constitution, is how they built in these mechanisms to stop some one person or one branch from taking over, this balance of power. I never really appreciated the balance of power. It has helped keep us from having a tyrant so far.
A.J. Jacobs' research also took him to Washington, D.C.
423 signatures.
To dive into the First Amendment right to petition the government, Jacobs brought a very long one to Oregon Senator Ron Wyden to reconsider Ben Franklin's idea of having more than one president.
You are injecting logic and common sense, which often is lacking in public discourse.
How did he receive your petition?
I think he considered it for about 5 seconds, and that was the end of the consideration. I will say, he totally bought my underlying thesis that the president has too much power.
While doing his research, Jacobs used a quill pen, which meant living the rest of his day with stained fingertips.
I love writing by hand. There is something wonderful about taking out a quill pen, dipping it in ink, and just writing those sentences. I love the sound of the scratch, scratch, scratch.
AJ's wife of 24 years, Julie Jacobs, not so much.
We've lived through a lot together, so this is nothing. This is nothing.
Are you the world's most patient wife?
I think so. Yes. Feel free to call me St. Julie whenever you would like.
Oh, that looks lovely.
AJ not only wrote with a quill pen, he scratched his words on parchment.
Parchment is not paper. It is a stretched and dried animal skin, something like a calf skin, goat skin, or sheep skin.
To learn how it's made,
what would you describe the smell as?
Somewhere between rotting flesh and really strong cheese. It's kind of like you're slicing deli meat.
Jacobs got a lesson from brothers Jesse and Stephen Meyer, who run Pergamena,
Very drum-like.
one of the few places parchment is made in North America.
This is basically what they did for the Constitution.
This is what they did.
And now that parchment is under glass, displayed at the National Archives in Washington.
You cannot break this glass, and it's in the state of the art. All the air that it needs to breathe is in there.
Is it just regular air, or
No.
does the Constitution breathe special
It has
air?
special air, yes.
Historian Jesse Kratz gave Jacobs an early morning tour.
People come here and they look at it and they're rejuvenated, and maybe they will go vote, not just in a presidential election, but maybe in a local election.
I don't want to say just read the Constitution. That's not really the point. Read the Constitution and talk about it with people, especially people who disagree with you. That, to me, is what democracy is about.
All this running around might seem like a gimmick, but Jacobs says the immersive approach helped focus him on the key lessons of the system we still live under today.
They thought about rights, but they also thought about responsibilities. It was so ingrained in them that they had a responsibility to their community, to their country, but I feel we've lost some of that. It's all about putting others before yourself sometimes.
That lesson isn't just a pleasing notion. It's vital to the Constitution's survival. Were you more optimistic or pessimistic after this project?
George Washington sat in a wooden chair at the Constitutional Convention, and it had a carving on the back of the sun, but not the full sun, just half the sun, the top half. So you couldn't tell, is it setting or is it rising? At the end of the convention, against all odds, they have this Constitution. Ben Franklin says, "Now I know the sun is rising on America." And my question was, is the sun still rising on America? It's up to us, because if we do nothing, then the sun will set.